Hello, everyone. For my presentation this afternoon, allow me to open your minds to the limitless possibilities of Gretl, a free tool for modeling and forecasting. To start, let's find out what is Gretl. Gretl stands for GNU Regression, Econometrics, and Time Series Library. It is a cross-platform software package for econometric analysis. It is a free and open source software or a freeware written in the C programming language, meaning that if you would like to get a copy of Gretl, you may simply visit the website and download the program for free. Then, if you'd like, you may also view the code behind the program to better learn and even contribute to its development, since it is an open source software. Now, what are the features of Gretl? Gretl has an easy and intuitive interface with a wide variety of estimators, as shown here. If you would like to perform time series analysis, then you may also use Gretl. If you're working with limited dependent variables, Gretl is also capable of these using logit, probit, and tobit models. Other key features of Gretl are shown here, and in particular, I would like to focus on the integrated powerful scripting language known as Hansel. This has a wide variety of programming tools and matrix operations. Aside from that, Gretl also facilitates for easy exchange of data and results with R, Octave, Python, and various other statistical programs. So basically, Gretl is a useful tool in performing various types of analysis, including time series analysis. Now, when talking about forecasting and time series analysis, the usual tool used is eViews, right? That's why I have prepared a few slides comparing eViews and Gretl. Both are powerful statistical programs with, of course, their own pros and cons. To start things off, let's get to know eViews. It is a statistical package for Windows that offers powerful statistical time series forecasting and modeling tools through an innovative, easy-to-use, object-oriented interface. And with that, let's now compare Gretl and eViews. Looking at the system requirements, Gretl is compatible with Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. On the other hand, eViews primarily works on Windows. Now, if you would like to access it on Mac, you would need the eViews University Edition, or you'd need to contact the sales team via email to get access and be able to install the eViews single user license, full version. Then, if you are a Linux user, unfortunately, eViews does not support this operating system. Moving on to data management and the statistical tools offered by both applications. Both are capable of performing simple data management, such as importing and exporting data and outputs. You can also add and perform transformations on observations and variables. Then, for the statistical tools, both can perform inferential and descriptive statistics, as well as more advanced statistical analysis, such as modeling and forecasting. It's worth noting that both softwares are able to produce the same outputs, and both are capable of performing powerful statistical analysis. Now, onto the programming aspect. Although eViews' core design features a mouse-driven user interface, eViews also offers an extensive programming and command language. Unlike Gretl, you would actually have to need to code your instructions manually to have a copy of it. On the other hand, Gretl, as I've mentioned, has its script programming counterpart called Hansel. And unlike eViews, for the older versions of eViews at least, Gretl's graphical user interface is tied together with its console. The different statistical analysis performed via point and click is logged in Gretl's console, and you may save these commands for easy access and replication. This feature makes documenting the steps and outputs much easier in Gretl. In fact, if you've conducted a study and you're creating a research paper for submission into a journal, these recorded set of commands can be included in your paper. Moving on to user cost. What do these programs cost the average user? For starters, the commercial eViews 12 Standard Edition single user license would cost $1,695 US. That's $85,000 953 pesos and 45 centavos. eViews is currently being used by both public and private sectors, despite its high cost, since people have grown accustomed with it, and it has been promoted long before. On the other hand, how much would you have to spend for the Gretl software? Actually, nothing at all, because it is free and accessible on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. With that in mind, Gretl is student-friendly because it's free of charge. In fact, a lot of its users belong in the academe, seeing as many people in the Gretl community forums tend to be professors and students. Gretl is also good for instructional purposes since it's free and accessible to anyone. The great thing about Gretl is that it has powerful statistical capabilities that have comparable outputs with other licensed or paid software. Now, for the next part of my presentation, I'll be giving you a short demonstration of the different tools and capabilities of Gretl. I'll be showing you how to operate and navigate through the Gretl software. Okay, and now let's open up our Gretl application. So just double click the Gretl here, and you will be greeted with the Gretl main window. So I'll move it here, top left portion of my screen. And as you can see, we have different menu options here. We have the file tools and others, which aren't activated at the moment since we haven't loaded up a dataset. And a key feature here is the help menu, which contains different PDF files, which would act as instruction materials. So if you would like to learn more about Gretl, there's a step-by-step guide for the user's guide here. We have the command reference as well. And for those of you who are interested in learning the programming language of Gretl, we have the Hansel primer. Now, to start, let's click on File and open a dataset. So we have two options here. We have the user file. So these are for the datasets that you have in your respective computers. And we have the sample file. So Gretl actually has some built-in datasets ready for us to use. So if you'd like to try out and explore the different features of Gretl, the best way would be to use the sample file built in Gretl. So let's show first what we have in the user file. So it's just this simple loading option here. So we just see the different file options or file types that you can load up in Gretl. So the typical open document files, Excel files, CSV files are very much accessible here on Gretl, as well as other statistical software data files. So I'll close this up. And as I've mentioned, we'll be using some sample files. So these are the built-in datasets of Gretl. So we have from Gretl, Green, and Ramanathan. So in our case, let's look for data 676 from Ramanathan. And as you can see here, we have a wide array of data sets available to all the users. So data 76 is the poverty rates and determinants cross-sectional data set with 116 observations. So I'll double click on this to load it up, and you would be greeted with now our new variables, as well as the descriptive labels per variable. So now, let's say we want to perform some descriptive statistics. To do that, just click on View and select Summary Statistics. Let's just generate a quick set of summary statistics. So once you click on this, you would be greeted with the Summary Statistics window where it will select which variables will compute the summary statistics for. And I've selected the following. Click on this arrow and click OK. Show full statistics, and this will prompt Gretl to open up this window. So as you can see, we have the mean, median, minimum, maximum, standard deviation, coefficient of variation, skewness, excess kurtosis, the 5th percentile, 95th percentile, and interquartile range. Now, let's say we want to try out other features of Gretl. So if you would like to graph some variables, we can also click on View and graph some specified variables. We can create an XY scatter plot, XY with impulses, And let's say we want to create a simple box plot. So click on box plot, and we'll just select which variable we'd like to create a box plot for. Click OK, and we would have this box plot. Aside from that, of course, it also has correlation matrix, cross tabulation. You can also check for principal components and the like. And now let's say we want to perform some inferential statistics. Let's say a simple hypothesis testing. So click on tools, and from here you can see we have some statistical tables, a p-value finder, distribution graphs. You can even plot curves. And to perform a hypothesis test, just click on test statistic calculator. And as you can see here, we have test statistic calculators, or a hypothesis test for the mean, variance, and proportion for one population. And it's also available for two population means, variances, and proportions. So for our case, in our hypothesis test, let's just go for one population mean, use the variable from dataset poverty rate, and automatically you can see here, Gretl computes for the sample mean, standard deviation, and sample size. For our hypothesized mean, let's just select, let's say 10. Let's set it at 10. And then for the tick boxes here, no need to show the graph of our sampling distribution since we just want to see our hypothesis test output. And as you can see, one click, automatically Gretl produces the output. So let's close that. And let's check out the other features of Gretl. So if you click on variable, you can see here that you can display the values, show again summary statistics here, and perform various tests. Let's say we want to perform an ordinary least squares regression analysis. So just click on model and select ordinary least squares. This will prompt Gretl to ask you to specify your model. In our case, let's select poverty rate as our dependent variable and select all the other variables here from orb until mid-inc, or your median income, as our regressor. So let's add all of these up here and click OK. And we would now have our Gretl model 1 on screen. So as you can see here, the typical output would have the coefficient, standard error, t ratio, the p-value for each of our regressors, as well as the adjusted r-squared, p-value, and other criteria in the bottom portion. Now, let's say we want to perform some diagnostic checks. So to start things off, of course, you might want to check some graphs. So Gretl also allows for residual plots. So we can have here the simple box plot, or by observation number against poverty rate, against the different variables and the like. We can also have our fitted and actual plot. So by observation number, actual versus fitted, and the like. So let's click on this and have a look. So this is the graph output. And if you would like, you can also look at the residual QQ plot. So you can see that here as well. And now let's say we want to have actual tests done. So click on tests, and you can perform tests for heteroscedasticity using the White's test, Bruce-Pagan, and the like. So let's click on White's test, and the outputs are automatically shown here. Next, let's check out the test for normality of residuals. Clicking on this, it produces a graph and the output as well here. And you will be able to perform your interpretations for that. Aside from that, we can also check on analysis, where we can perform forecasts, create confidence intervals for our coefficients, and test for collinearity and influential observations, to name a few. So once you're done with your modeling, once you're done with the regression analysis, you can actually now proceed to performing another type of test, another type of analysis. So let's say we want to go ahead and perform some time series analysis. So we can just load up another data set here. So just click on File, Open Data, and again, Sample File. So this time, let's load up data 99, quarterly data on new car sales. So as you can see, this is a time series data set with 60 observations. So if I double click on this again, this time there's a new prompt that would appear. It would ask you basically if you have already saved the different outputs that you've produced. And if you haven't yet, please make sure to do so, or else you would lose these outputs. So since we're just doing a quick run through, and no need for me to save these, I'll just click yes. And automatically all the windows that I've opened up earlier were closed, and I have the new dataset loaded up here. So we have the number of cars, population, and the other variables shown here. So in this case, let's try out some simple time series tools. So let's just click on variable. And let's have a quick time series plot of the number of cars variable. Okay, so we have our simple line chart here. And this time, let's try out different moving average here. So we have the exponential moving average. So just click on that. Let's stick with the settings here. And let's just graph the residual or cycle series. Clicking OK, this would open up another graph for us, showing us this. Okay. Aside from that, let's say we want to perform an X12 ARIMA analysis. So for that, just click on variable and select X12 ARIMA analysis. So it's right here. Again, we'll stick with the settings here. And this time, let's save our series. So let's save the data. So let's just check on the tick boxes here and generate our graph, show full output, click OK. And we would have this. Okay, so we have the graph of our new series, as well as the X12 ARIMA analysis report. So this is a long report, and you can read this at your own time. And if we look at the original dataset, we now have the new series added in as well. So we have the seasonally adjusted trend and cycle for the number of cars variable and the irregularity component as well. Okay, and that actually wraps up our hands-on demonstration of Gretl. To end my presentation, I'd like to leave you with two things. First would be that we would like to invite you to visit the Gretl website. So if you're interested and you'd like to get a copy of this amazing program, then please visit their website. From there, you can download and access the Gretl program in your computers. So we have the link flashed here on the screen. Next up, if you are moved and intrigued to learn more about Gretl, then we encourage you to visit the PSRTI website to see the various course offerings of our agency. We've actually developed a couple of training courses that feature and highlight Gretl, such as regression analysis, time series analysis and basic forecasting, and advanced forecasting methods. So anyone and everyone can join. Just check our list of training courses offered at PSRTI. And that is it for my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.